Hi, this is Alan Olson, and welcome to American Dreams. My guest today is Tara Renze. Tara, welcome.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Tara, you've been active in a lot of areas, but before we get into currently what you're working on, could you give us background for, what brought you up to where you are today?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I am a born and bred Kansas girl. I grew up in a really rural area of Kansas and have actually lived in Kansas my whole life. I went to the University of Kansas, and after college, I moved to Kansas City and went right into the corporate world. I was kind of one of those oddballs who said, "Hey, I'm going to go into sales." I remember my dad saying, "You're going to go into sales?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I went to work for a company called careerbuilder.com and spent about almost 10 years there climbing the corporate ladder there, doing sales leadership. I ran a couple of their corporate sales offices, went on to do their national training for leaders as well as their sales force. And then I had a couple big life events, also known as children, and when I was in my early 30s. And at that point in time, I did something I never thought I'd do, but I shifted gears and I started a home-based business just so I could have that flexible entrepreneurship and be more present in the house as a mother. And I did that for about another 8 years. And then it was when I got into my 40s that I decided to really go out on my own and start my own business and my own brand, writing, speaking. I'm a keynote speaker, I'm an author, and on a mission to help women be who they came to be.
So let's get into the focus of that business. When you're doing an inspirational or a keynote speech, and you have the individuals are kind of on the fence of how do I know what my destiny is in life and moving forward. How do you give a person the encouragement to be the person that they want to be?
Well, I think it's, as I found out as a keynote speaker, it's easier said than done. I think for me, first and foremost, was really, really getting focused on who my audience was. And I joke early on when I first started delivering my keynote and my message. Sometimes I'd go to events and I felt like Eminem at a retirement community. And I was like, these are just not my people and audience. And it was really just through that process that I found out that my message really resonates most with working women. So becoming specifically dialed in on the audience and who your message resonates with and making sure that you're delivering it to the right audience, I think obviously is key. There's that old saying, know your audience. I tell my children this, hey guys, you got to know your audience anytime they're interacting or doing anything. So, and when you go back to the heart of the message of be who you came to be, it was actually a note that my grandmother had left my newborn son shortly before she passed away. And it was this beautiful note that she had written to this baby boy, her great grandson. And the last sentence that she wrote was, be who you came to be. So it's really this idea that we're all born predestined to do something extraordinary with our lives, that it's a permission slip to grow, change, and evolve. And as mothers and as working women, as much as we relate to that for our children, I think that, women specifically, we get to a point in our lives and we think, hey, is this it? What's next? Who am I? And who did I come to be? And so it's been a really, gosh, just inspiring journey for myself to see the message grow, the audience grow. I got a message today from a girl who was gifted my book from someone, and she went to Israel to visit a friend, and she took my book and gave it to her and sent me a picture of her this morning. They were having coffee, and it's those moments that you realize you're making a difference with women in the world.
Let's talk about your book. The title is?
It's called Be Who You Came to Be, a note that changed my life and the secrets that will change yours too.
Okay, and the predominant message for the reader of the book, what's the takeaway that they should have?
So Be Who You Came to Be, again, it's a permission slip to grow, change, and evolve. But the book really outlines how do you create it, how do you own it, and how do you live the life that you desire and deserve. The chapters are short, they're snappy, they create a lot of curiosity. In addition to my words of wisdom, I've paralleled each chapter with quotes from different thought leaders, different business people, different women, different men, to just really provide that daily inspiration that someone needs to continue to level up their life and their overall success and happiness.
So is this the first book that you've written?
This is my very first published book. I did a lot of blogging. I publish a lot online and through social media. But as far as the hardback edition that you can get on my website as well, on Amazon and Kindle and Barnes and Noble, this is my first official book. Although who knew that I would be an author? I kind of thought, hey, you write the book and you're done. And then as soon as this one published, I've been starting to work on my second book already.
What's the writing process like, Tara? For those listeners who want to write their own book, what is it like to actually go through and put a book together?
Well, although there's times that it seems incredibly empowering, it's a process. It takes a lot of vulnerability. It takes a lot of clarity. It takes a lot of dedication and tenacity to really go that course. So, I do believe that everybody has a book in them. I think that everybody has a story to tell. I think that everybody has wisdom that they were either, that they learned along the way, that they learned from a parent or a grandparent or an experience or just their life in general. And we love stories. We love to learn about other people's lives. And so I think the first thing for the writing process is really get crystal clear on the type of book that you want to write, not the type of book you think you should write or the type of book that you think is needed, but the type of book that you want to write. And I know when I first started writing my book and when I first got into the keynote world, I compete with a lot of big thought leaders and speakers. And I kind of thought, hey, I need a business book. I need that book that's going to pop on the business section in Barnes and Noble that corporations are going to be getting their employees to read. And I tried writing that book for years and years and years. And what I realized, kind of living through the pandemic and really having to resonate in my own message of be who you came to be. How do you create, own, and live the life that you desire and deserve? I gave myself permission to write the book that I wanted to write, which was not a quote unquote business book. I wanted a really feminine book, a very pretty book that women would want a gift, that they would feel really special when they got it, when they opened it. I wanted to be filled with quotes and, to have it a highly designed book from front to cover. And once I gave myself that permission to write the book I wanted to write, it just flowed. And within 5 months, it was at the publishing house. We were in editing and design. And so it was a really curious experience to go through.
So Tara, when first of all, just in visiting with you, you're very personal, and I can see your leadership inside and the why you are a keynote speaker coming through. In writing this book, what was the hardest, and this is a tough question, but what was the hardest part about getting through to the end? Mm-hmm. What was the hardest part in writing the book?
I think the hardest part was definitely saying, okay, send it to press. Because we're always a work in progress, right? And so I think that's where, like, during the editing process, there was a lot of things I changed that I loved, but then there was always that, oh wait, maybe I should add one more chapter. Oh wait, maybe we should do this. And I think that to actually box it up and say, hey, send it to the press, let's go, this is it, this is this book, was a really challenging thing to do. Also, because then it's in print. I mean, it's official, right? Like, there's no unprinting thousands of books that are going to hit the bookshelf. And I think giving myself that permission to say, hey, this was my first book. And it was also the first print of the book. In fact, it printed finally in November. And then we're already back in press now because it's been so well received. And so we were able to make, some minor edits and changes. But the beautiful thing of it is it's kind of this moment in time that's forever captured. And, I wrote this book on the heels of the pandemic, and going through that event that drastically changed my business. As you can imagine, a keynote speaker, there were no events. And we were suddenly thrown into this virtual world. And to have this book is just, it's something I'm really proud of. And I think that was the biggest thing for me is saying, hey, am I proud of this book? And am I ready to print it? And when I got to that point, it was definitely a hard place to get. I didn't even let my mom read the book before it hit the bookshelf. So that was definitely the hardest thing.
So Tara, in the is when you look at life and look into the future, and then you look back at your journey, what do you want to be known for?
Hmm. First and foremost, there's one audience I care most about. Gosh, I can't sometimes I get emotional talking about these things, and that's my children. I at the end of my life, at the end of my day, if my kids say you were a great mom, I'm so proud of you. I love what you did with your life. And they have this book, and my husband is shining light. Like that's my most important audience, and it always will be. So I think that there's that, but really, I want my goal every time I speak, anytime someone picks up my book, is that it gives them the confidence to own it, to show up as authentic them, and to really step into their authenticity, which is being comfortable with who you are, not who you think you should be or who you think other people think you should be. And just saying, hey, I know I'm not going to be for everyone. For some people, I'm going to be too much. For other people, I'm not going to be enough. But this is who I am. And I'm going to live my life by, my values, by my faith, by my love, by, my gifts and talents. And I'm going to show up as bold, authentic me. And I'm going to create and own the life I live and deserve and desire. That's my mission. And so anytime I get a message from a woman who says, gosh, this book has already just changed how I view myself. It's changed, last weekend I had the good fortune of speaking to a pretty tough audience, I said, because it was teenage girls and their moms. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I deliver this message to teenagers and, 40 plus year old women? But it was well received because ultimately we're all women. And when I get those notes of saying, I loved this, this has given me a lot of confidence to shine my light, that's all that matters to me.
So for the listeners who want to pick up your book, where would they find it?
So the best place to get the book is on my website, tararenze.com, because you get this really pretty hardback gold foil version. And your listeners can use the promo code FRIEND, and that will get them free shipping. So that's definitely the best place to get the book.
Okay, Tara, I appreciate you being on today's show. And, for the listeners picking up the book, it's tararenze.com.
.com.
Okay, very good. Okay, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.